I like the well, once again, the establishing of the covenant and his sign of the covenant, the rainbow, right? And I
Yeah.
love the fact that the rainbow, in my opinion, is representative of the seven firmaments. It's a blatant creation model token, if you will, that he's essentially saying that I'm never going to destroy the earth the way that I did this time. Here's my sign to show you that I'm going to be remembering this covenant and this promise I'm making to you. But then we also get to be participants in witnessing this covenant when we see rainbows as well, right? So it's just fascinating to me that the Father has given us such a cool sign that has eschatological implications with regards to the kingdom coming down right through the firmaments. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just really neat.
Yeah, it really is. And the fact that it's like you create you create visual holograms with glass like structures. And I think it's fascinating that in the sky with the right watery atmosphere, he creates a hologram in the sky that is the shape of his glass like structure of heaven.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. Like he built into it it's almost like he built with the multiple layers of the firmament that he made and the material he made it out of, the ability to actually communicate with us with the hologram in the air, which, from his level down to our level, it's like the ultimate email, and unfortunately it's not complicated. It's just a sign of a rainbow, but it says a lot when you know what it means. But I just, yeah, it's fascinating. It's a beautiful, beautiful sign. And I do want to point out here, it talks about it destroyed all life on the earth. So everything that wasn't in the ark was destroyed. So there's some other texts out there, and I think you and I'll be talking about some of this tomorrow even, that there's other texts out there that talk about certain things survived the flood and made it through.
Yes.
So
yes, I've heard about those theories and have read briefly some of those texts. And yeah, it could be an Honor Kings episode for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in here. What do you think about okay, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say the verse about every moving thing that is alive shall be food for you. I have given everything to you. Which version do you think better communicates, the truth of that statement? Because I've seen lots of people pull that up and be like, well, there you go, everything. Not only were we told, or was Noah and his progeny told to eat, or that they could eat living creatures in a post-flood context, but they could eat all things that crawl, right? Meaning, eat the one of the two pigs that came, you know what I mean? Like you're
Right,
allowed
yeah.
to eat that. Like that to me doesn't make sense when you're taking into context like everything we've talked about with regards to the dietary instructions, right? He's not going to all of a sudden, Yahweh's not going to say, okay, now disregard what I've told you is food, eat it all. So what, in your opinion, is a better, passage or translation that hits the nail on the head with what is being communicated there?
Well, each translation can have their own translator insertions. So I like to sometimes just go to the strict text from the Hebrew that they use the manuscripts from. And in this verse, there is no word for now. There is no transitory word as far as, everything that moves, it shall be food for you. And, now I give you these things. So it's just every moving thing that it lives for you shall be for food, just as the green herbs have I given you all things.
Yeah.
So again, there's a definition for food, and it's not as if there's a change in saying, before you could eat, you couldn't eat meats, now you can. No, that wasn't the case either, because Genesis 4, Cain and Abel were bringing forth first fruits; those would be eaten. Abel brought forth the first fruits from his flocks; those would be eaten as a part of that sacrifice, if you understand the scriptures. And then here, without that word "now" in there, there's no transition from saying this is something you used to could not do and now you can do.
Right.
And so therefore he's still moving within the definition of what is food. And that's where I would suggest that, the book of Enoch would help us, because Enoch calls Methuselah and his sons and his other brothers, Methuselah's brothers, calls them all together at one point to teach them righteousness, to teach them the ways of Yahweh, and including Sabbath observances and festivals and feasts, and clean food is included in those feasts. So it's assumed, inherently understood, that even in the days of Enoch, they knew what clean and unclean was and were eating clean. They were eating things that only are defined as food, which would be clean food. Does that
Yeah.
make any sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or is it
I
too
agree with
convoluted?
that. No, I got it.
Um,
Got you, bro. What else is in there, or did you want to move on?
yeah, I didn't see a lot else in here other than just, the infamous Ham
The
moment.
nakedness one. Yeah.
Yeah, people like to immediately think that uh there's something sexual happening here, but that's not what the text says. In fact, yeah, just as we were reading this, I know that the book of Jubilees in chapter 7 tells you that Ham's son Canaan was already born at this time. But we see here, it says in verse 22, and Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father's nakedness and told his two brothers outside. I would suggest it's actually telling you right here as well that Canaan was already born. But a lot of people have taken this sentence to think, oh, it's just kind of giving us extra description on this infamous character Canaan, whom it's just reminding us that Ham was his father or will be his father. But no,
Yeah.
according to Jubilees and according to my understanding of reading this verse 22, Canaan was already born when Ham dishonored his father by talking about his nakedness to his brothers. And I kind of think this was like a mockery event. What do you feel about this?
Yeah, this one, if I'm gonna be honest, is like it's a bit of an obscure situation here. I've kind of wrestled with it in the past and thought it could potentially be referring to um, Ham sleeping with Noah's mother, even like uncovering his father's nakedness or shame, whatever that commandment is in Torah, being an idiom for sleeping with the mother type thing. And I don't think that's what it was. I think it is probably just a straightforward thing of him not doing what the other brothers did and covering the shame of his naked father there. And he goes out, and we don't get the full conversation or how it went
Yeah.
down afterwards, but we can probably likely surmise that he did something that wasn't of godly character, and so the brothers had to step in and do what was godly in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah, and that term from Leviticus about uncovering your father's nakedness, I think it's Leviticus 18 and also in 20. Um, that is an action. That's an idiom that was used by the Hebrews to describe an action that's being done about physically and sexually having your father's wife.
Yeah.
But in this story, from what I'm seeing, it looks like the descriptions tell us that Noah himself uncovered himself because he was drunk and laid down.
Right.
So it's not
That's
like,
that's where the fault lies in that theory, is that
yeah,
you're rewording kind of what's taken place in the situation here.
yeah. Yeah, and then of course, there is no child that's born from the theory because, like I'm saying, Ham's already been born at this time. He's 2 years old.
Yeah, Canaan. Yeah.
So, or I should say Canaan. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm seeing from that. Essentially, it's pretty simple. People like to make a big theory out of it, but ultimately, I love chapter 9 because we get to see a lot of stuff when you compare it with the other descriptions and other chapters and other portions. With this one, you see Noah celebrated the new moon feast of the first month with joy, sacrifice. Oh, you know what? I was calling it Shavuot. I apologize. It's not Shavuot. When he got off the boat, it was the new moon feast of the first month, according to Jubilee. So I apologize. I misspoke. And Ham dishonored his father by mocking his nakedness. Noah announced Ham's youngest son Canaan would be cursed due to Ham's attitude. Noah announced the authority Shem was to receive through the priesthood and how Japheth and Ham's descendants would serve Shem's authority. And this is something we didn't talk about too much, but that's my understanding of Noah saying Ham will be a servant to Shem. Not only is Shem given the priesthood, which rules over his brothers, but Japheth later in Book of Jubilees, one of Japheth's children begs for a portion of area inside Shem's territory. And this is why it says that Japheth will share in the tents of Ham, or excuse me, Japheth will share in the tents of Shem. And then, of course, Ham, his descendant Canaan, goes in by sedition, tries to steal a portion of Shem's territory that's given to him. All this is explained in the Book of Jubilees. Genesis just gives us this brief little sprinkling, and we have to kind of compare other passages to get a fuller story.